The NBA draft is like playing against random people in a high-stakes casino game. You wouldn't know who's really good at playing poker or who among them is just bluffing. In this video, we're going to take a look at some highly touted prospects who failed miserably in their NBA careers. Here are the top 10 busts in NBA history. But before everything else, make sure to like the video, subscribe to this channel, and tap the bell icon so you won't miss awesome NBA content just like this. With that settled, let's get to it. Shawn Bradley, number 2, 1993 NBA Draft. Unlike today's generation of sweet-shooting big men who can play multiple positions, traditional centers were considered prized possessions in the NBA around the early 90s. You know, those big boys who can get you 8 to 10 boards a night and provide an intimidating presence in defense while showing no offensive skill at all. So in the 1993 NBA Draft, the Philadelphia 76ers decided to acquire the tallest man in the pool of draftees and gambled their second overall pick on a lanky 7'6" guy named Shawn Bradley out of BYU. During his first year with BYU, Bradley was a shot-blocking demon who averaged 5.2 a game. Upon stepping into the league, Bradley continued to be like a giant fly swatter around the rim as he altered and blocked shots with ease. He averaged well over 3 blocks per game throughout his junior season with Philly, and he tallied his career high in blocks with 4 rejections a game 2 seasons later playing for the Nets. To be honest, Bradley was actually a decent player throughout his 14-year run in the league. But for a number 2 overall pick who got picked ahead of Penny Hardaway, Jamal Mashburn, Vin Baker, and Allen Houston, we can safely say that Bradley was a certified bust for not living up to his expectations given his high draft position. Michael OLOWAKANDI, number 1, 1998 Draft. You can't teach height. This is a popular basketball adage that still rings true nowadays in the era of modern hoops. Back in 1998, big men were selling like hotcakes, and everyone thought that Michael OLOWAKANDI had all the icing and syrup that other big man hotcakes didn't have. A Nigerian-born 7-footer who weighed almost 280 pounds and had a 7'6" wingspan, OLOWAKANDI, who also goes by the nickname of Candy Man, was poised to dominate the league when he was selected as the top of the draft class back in 1998. But thanks to a series of not-so-good situations like an NBA lockout and a festering knee injury, the Candyman was only to live his NBA dream for 5 decent seasons in the NBA, while the remaining 5 only served as grabbing paycheck seasons as he only played a total of 177 games during that stretch. As a rookie, OLOWAKANDI was only able to muster a dismal 8.9 points and 7.9 rebounds stat line despite undergoing advanced training with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to improve his low-post game. This trend would continue until 2001, before he had a mini back-to-back breakout season averaging 11.1 and 12.3 points during the 2001 and 2002 seasons. But sadly, the 2002 season was the only productive year for OLOWAKANDI, as his career would abruptly plummet after that, and he was forced to retire due to a severe hernia coupled with compounding knee injuries. Adam Morrison, number 3, 2006 Draft. Pegged as the second coming of Larry Bird, Adam Morrison had all the tools to replicate what the Celtics legend had accomplished in the NBA. But unfortunately, Morrison was not able to fly as high as Bird, and after just 4 seasons in the league, he was gone for good. So, what happened? From scoring just 11.4 in his freshman season with the Gonzaga Bulldogs, Morrison surprised everyone when he went firing on all cylinders in his second year, averaging 19 points per game, and continued his meteoric rise as a collegiate standout when he became NCAA's scoring leader in 2006 with 28 points per game. The dude was essentially a walking bucket, a relentless scorer that could light up the scoreboard pretty quick. And mind you, he was putting up splash after splash while having a sophisticatedly trimmed mustache and Beatles-like hairdo. His impressive collegiate run made headlines and echoed throughout the basketball world. So much so that Michael Jordan himself saw some shades of his former rival in the young upstart coming from Spokane, Washington. After picking Morrison as the number 3 overall in the 2006 draft by the now-defunct Charlotte Bobcats, things quickly headed south for Morrison. In October 2007, just a few games into his rookie year, Morrison suffered a devastating knee injury against one of his preseason matchups with the Lakers. After an MRI scan was conducted, it was later confirmed that Morrison blew his knee out with an ACL injury, and he was not the same since. After playing sparingly for the next couple of seasons, he retired and ended his NBA career averaging 7.5 points per game and 2.1 rebounds per game, but was lucky enough to be able to taste back-to-back championships in 2009 and 2010 with the Lakers. Kwame Brown, number 1, 2001 NBA Draft. Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, Tracy McGrady, and Dwight Howard. These are just some great NBA players that successfully jumped from high school straight to the pros. But let me remind you that not all 18-year-old boys who have undergone this path have experienced instant success in the big leagues. Exhibit A, Kwame Brown. Touted as the most talented high school kid along with Eddie Curry and Tyson Chandler, Kwame Brown was hyped as the next big thing, following in the footsteps of those who came before him like Kobe and KG. After a strong pre-draft workout with the Wizards, team president Michael Jordan decided to use their number 1 overall pick to get Brown on board. Based on drafting the previous guy on this list, let's just simply say that MJ was not as good at scouting prospects as he was at playing ball. Kwame was only able to put up a disappointing 4.5 points while logging in 14.3 minutes per game in his debut year. Though he was big and tough underneath the rim, the clear lack of fundamentals was evident for this big man, and his footwork was basically slower than a sloth. He never averaged double figures in scoring except for the 03-04 season, and grabbed an average of fewer than 8 boards per game during his 13-year stint suiting up for 7 different teams in the league. HASHEEM THABEET, number 2, 2009 Draft. In another series of draft day disasters, the Memphis Grizzlies took their chances on the 7'3" Tanzanian center out of Connecticut, HASHEEM THABEET. For those who want to refresh their memory of the 2009 draft, THABEET was picked ahead of James Harden, Tyreke Evans, Jrue Holiday, DeMar DeRozan, and the greatest shooter in NBA history, Steph Curry. THABEET struggled through his 2 seasons with the Grizzlies and averaged 1.2 points and 1.7 rebounds in his final year with Memphis. His plummet would continue when he got dealt to the Rockets, where he only played a total of 7 games in his 2 seasons with his new team before playing with Portland and eventually closing out his short-lived NBA career in OKC in 2014. Just like other lanky big men, knee injuries continued to be one of the major problems why THABEET did not live up to his expected potential. Darko Milicic, number 2, 2003 Draft. If you were one of the front office guys for the Pistons in the 2003 draft, there's absolutely no way you could screw this up. I mean, the draft was stacked with future Hall of Famers and All-Stars like Chris Kaman, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Carmelo Anthony, and LBJ. But the Pistons had other things in mind and made a head-scratcher of a decision by choosing a 7-footer, bleach-haired Serbian named Darko Milicic at number 2. Though LeBron was a surefire number 1 pick, they had a chance to pick Melo, but chose not to since they already had Tayshaun Prince at the forward spot. Anyway, Milicic was bad on the court, like horrendously bad. He only played a total of 34 games in his rookie season and only averaged 1.4 points and 1.3 rebounds per game. But hey, at least he got a ring in his first year while averaging more high fives and back taps than points. He would then go on to become a journeyman while averaging less than 10 points per game playing for Orlando, Memphis, New York, Minnesota, before wrapping everything up in Boston. Anthony Bennett, number 1, 2013 Draft. At 6'8" and weighing almost 250 pounds, the Cleveland Cavaliers pulled a shocker of a draft pick when they drafted the 18-year-old Canadian out of UNLV named Anthony Bennett. In the same draft class that featured Victor Oladipo, KCP, Dennis Schroeder, Rudy Gobert, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Cavs probably looked to fill the void that LeBron left at the time. But on a sad note, they picked the wrong guy to represent as LBJ's replacement. Bennett struggled in his first year with the Cavs, tallying only 4.2 points under 13 minutes coming off the bench. After being traded to Minnesota, Bennett upped his scoring quite a bit to 5.2 points per game, but was waived at the end of the season. He would play 2 more forgettable seasons with the Raptors and Nets before trying his luck in G League and EuroLeague. Greg Oden, number 1, 2007 draft. In 2006, Golden State Warriors head coach Steve Kerr proclaimed Greg Oden as a once-in-a-decade type of player. Size, strength, and mobility, it's pretty rare to witness these traits in a big man. But during his monster years in Ohio State, Greg Oden was a rare breed that possessed each one of them. As a member of the Buckeyes, Oden averaged almost a double-double in his lone season with the team, tallying 15.6 points while grabbing 9.6 rebounds a game. To compare his game with other NBA greats, Oden's game can be compared to Shaq's, except Oden was much leaner, faster, and has a soft touch in the perimeter while retaining the level of strength that Shaq had. So after he declared for the 2007 draft, the Portland Trail Blazers didn't hesitate to choose Oden as their next franchise player, even at the expense of bypassing the second guy that came after his name was called, which turned out to be Kevin Durant. As Oden began his NBA journey, things ended just as quickly as it began for the 7-footer. Injuries were the primary reason why Oden didn't live up to his potential as the next star for the Blazers. He was sidelined in his first year in the league due to an ailing knee injury, and after slightly recovering the year after, he re-aggravated his injury by clashing knees with Corey Maggette, shelving him for another 3 weeks. After a series of tests and re-evaluations with his recurring injuries, team doctors declared that Oden must undergo surgery to repair his fractured left patella, and thus, Oden had to sit out another season. Throughout his short NBA career, Oden was only able to play 105 games in his 3 seasons with the league. LARUE Martin, number 1, 1972 draft. In a year where draft odds don't involve mathematical calculations and the draft order was merely determined by a coin flip, there was a high probability that you can get the best guy out there if you happen to be the team who's picking number 1. So in the 1972 NBA draft, the Portland Trail Blazers yet again put their money on a 6'11" big dude named LARUE Martin. Martin was a double-double machine, playing for Loyola University during his college years and averaged around 18 points and 16 rebounds a game. He also went up with the greats, and one of them was Bill Walton when he faced UCLA in one of their matches in 1971 to 1972. But the brilliance that Martin had during this time never translated to success when he set foot in the NBA. In his rookie year, Martin had a disappointing debut, averaging 4.4 points, 4.6 rebounds, while only logging 12 minutes of play. These numbers are quite low for the guy who was picked ahead of NBA Hall of Famers like Bob McAdoo, Paul Westphal, and Julius Erving. Martin only averaged 5.3 points and 4.6 rebounds in his 4 seasons in the NBA before calling it quits in 1976. Thankfully, Martin was able to overcome the trauma of being labeled as one of the worst picks in NBA history after finding success as a coach. Sam Bowie, number 1, 1984 draft. I really don't know what's up with the Blazers and their history of bad picks. I'm not really sure if they're doing this intentionally or if they simply just love to waste draft picks. During the 1984 draft, the Portland Trail Blazers had the number 2 overall pick. Hakeem Olajuwon was already selected as number 1 as a lot of people expected. Since the Blazers already picked Clyde Drexler in the previous draft, the decision of picking another wingman or shooting guard was already out the window. Instead, the Blazers went big and selected the lanky 7'1" center out of Kentucky named Sam Bowie. Do you know who the Blazers skipped? Just a random 6'6" dude that goes by the name of Michael Jeffrey freaking Jordan, who the Bulls picked at number 3. And if that doesn't make your head shake, the Blazers still had the chance to either pick Charles Barkley or John Stockton, who were both picked in the latter half of the draft. Yep, I bet that one still stings more than a little bit for the Blazers. Bowie only played a total of 139 games in his first 4 seasons in the league, as he was riddled with leg and knee injuries. Though Bowie did have a bit of a career resurgence midway playing for the New Jersey Nets, his body simply couldn't withstand the toll that the NBA required, and he immediately retired after playing his 10th season in the league. Do you know other NBA busts that deserved a spot on this one? If you do, make sure to put their names in the comment section, and let's discuss if he's worthy to be included in this deplorable list. By the way, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and hit the notification bell so you'll always be updated with our future releases.